bet Champions League, and then college basketball, and then I bet the Wild in hockey. They're up 1-0. True. It's true, and it is true that it is that time again. PGA DFS live before lock from Awesemo.com. We are ready to talk all things Genesis Invitational, another really good tournament before we head to Florida next week. I am Ben Rasa. I'm joined, as I always am on these wonderful Wednesday nights, by Eric Lindquist. Looking good, rocking the Yahoo sponsorship in the background. We're going to get to them in a second, but first, most importantly, how are you on this Wednesday night?
Most importantly, look at you putting my mental health above all other things.
What we do here.
I wasn't as eventful in the old streets as you. I played a lot of NBA DFS, and that is proving to be a true and only described as shit show at the moment. So it's been enjoyable here. We're going to hopefully get some Dennis Schroeder in our lives because I fired up an irrational amount of him. Didn't even know he existed today until... obviously that's how NBA DFS can work from time to time, but sweating Jalen Smith, he needs to get going. Greg SJ, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I talked some hoops today on this very channel, put in my bets, did the prop show. So I definitely have some NBA sweats on the betting side. Let's hope we can get that done. But like I said, we are here to talk a little golf. And if we're going to have to talk golf, Genesis Invitational could be a lot worse than this. This is a quality tournament with a stacked field. All of the top 10 are here, 35 of the top 50 in the world. It is absolutely loaded, but I want to start, as we always do, with our friends at Yahoo. We talk about it every week, but if you are hopping into the stream for the first time or you just haven't taken advantage of it, we have partnered up with Yahoo Fantasy. From PGA to NBA to all the sports that they're offering, we have a fantastic deal. What we are doing, you are going to get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and play over on Yahoo. So obviously, right off the bat, you're taking advantage because you're getting that month free. You're using the tools that Alex and the entire team are providing. But better yet, Eric, you talk about this a lot. You're getting Yahoo's contests, which are great size, and the management fees are limited. It's just a different opportunity over there. But you can use it in conjunction with the other sites if you want to. But I have really enjoyed playing more volume on Yahoo this year in multiple sports.
Yeah, every single sport across the board. I mean, they have soccer contests that are pretty serviceable as well. You can get $10 in on some EPL if you would like to do such things. It's really enjoyable to have another site added to the mix. And not just that, but the best site in terms of low rake. And we have 12.3% management fee on the Thursday baller, 5K to first. So a decent enough prize up top here. I'm throwing a couple in there. If you guys want to build along as we're going on the show here, a lot of the plays obviously have some crossover, but you get different pricing. You say this a lot where you get $25 players that generally wouldn't be $25. They've actually made it $20, I think, is the floor here this week. Crazy different structure with John Rahm up there at $50 and then $20 players there at the bottom. You get a different selection of players into the mix, makes it really enjoyable. So check it out.
No doubt about it. Like I said, well said. You can get guys at the min, different type. I will pass that along. Any thoughts of adding Yahoo Hockey to the site? I have no knowledge of that, but I will pass it. We appreciate that. It's the type of feedback we're looking for. If there's something that you want, we can work with sponsors and work with our guys to hopefully bring it to you in the future. But let's talk a little waste management. Great tournament last week. We saw the beers being thrown and all that nonsense. Good times. Obviously a really rowdy atmosphere and a fun one to watch. Scheffler breaks through. It didn't even feel like a breakthrough because he's so good that we all knew it was eventually going to happen for him. What were your takeaways? It was just quality golf in my book across the board.
This is a crazy heater in the outright market. 3 of 4 now. I've been on a nice little run here in terms of hitting the outrights. And, generally I'm not playing more than last week. It was a pretty limited selection of guys. I was betting a lot of top 10s. I was hoping Bubba would get through because I took a pretty large position on him. The putter just never got going. Maybe it's this week, but I got the Scotty Scheffler bullet. That was really nice because obviously I generally stay away from the top end of the board, and Patrick Cantlay in a stacked field, if he were to come through and win there, would have been a problem for me, but played in one and done Scheffler. And obviously we talked about that on the Tuesday show because we were a little bit earlier last week. On Live Before Lock here, obviously I've got the entire card put together. Going to be a lot of the same cats, but a lot of the same themes where we're looking a little bit longer outside of the top guys to hopefully hit another outright here. 4 or 5 would be truly insane.
Yeah, I hope you do that. That'd be good. I did have Scheffler in one and done. That was quite useful. Vaulted me from the dumpster into contention. That's how fast it can change. And we'll talk a little about that But no, overall, it was just, like I said, a good tournament. Noren was the key for me. He was super low owned and he actually avoided the drink for the most part for a change. He had a couple water balls, as he always does. Aaron Wise, I appreciate him not even giving me a cut sweat anymore. I don't have to worry on Friday. He's like 7 strokes out of it. That's better than what he normally does, which is the Ricky by missing on the number. We're going to talk about both of them tonight, but we're also going to talk weather and withdraws. Not much to say right now. Heaton Buckley looks like he's out. He was kind of irrelevant to me anyway. The weather looks good. What do you see before we dive in?
It's LA in February. It's perfect. It's 70 every day, limited wind. You get Pacific Palisades, so you get a little bit of that coastal stuff that'll come in from time to time. But we've seen this tournament played in some absolute garbage in the past. It is definitely not that iteration this week.
Yeah, I think we're going to see just great golf. Nothing's going to affect us in the building. And we've got a super chat, a very generous one from a friend of the show and just good guy, St. Stephen, 68. You guys have been on a heater by the transitive property, so have I. Appreciate it. But we appreciate you. Guys in Discord all the time, dropping knowledge. Dropping a little lacrosse knowledge in there. Him and me have been betting some lacrosse to great success. One of the many reasons you want to get on our Discord and get after it. Vermont.
Not as good as Little League Baseball, though.
Little League Baseball is the
nuts.
number one easiest thing to bet. That is a fact. But lacrosse,
South Dakota, especially Sioux Falls, represent.
Well, if you have a kid that doesn't give up any hits, it's a lot easier. Quite easy. But in the meantime, we'll settle with lacrosse and PGA. One other thing I want to point out, and I'm not breaking any news here, but I did see that Fitzy is sick. He pulled out of the Pro-Am. I have no idea if that means that he's actually affected by any stretch. As far as I know, he is in the tournament. He's going to play. I haven't moved my rosters off him yet, but I did want to at least mention that he did withdraw from the Wednesday Pro-Am due to a stomach bug. Not COVID, but he clearly isn't feeling great. What do you do with something like that?
Well, here you go. You want to know the inside info because, again, people are like, Eric, you talk about yourself or golf or whatever else. I don't really care. This is a very roundabout story, but at a Christmas party this year, I ran into Dan Rappaport, the golfer in question, or the reporter here in question who had the tweet that everybody's referring to. His sister was at this Christmas party, and I got to talking about her brother and golf and obviously what I do and everything else. And it was a great conversation, but she was like, oh, if you ever want to meet my brother sometime or anything, I was like, we'll put that on the back burner, but that would be lovely if you wanted to come on and talk a little golf. He's pretty well known in the golf writing streets, but what I'm getting at is that she talked about how close these guys are in terms of relationship. I'm going to be sending a message here during this show here to Courtney, because as I'm thinking about this is an important thing. You don't need to know who Courtney is, but what you need to know is that Matthew Fitzpatrick is staying with the Rappaports like he always does for this tournament, and I will find out exactly how he is feeling tonight.
Well, there you go.
You'll hear it here first.
I'm looking forward to that. And then this is going to 100%. They're going to be like, oh, he's fine. And then he's going to withdraw. But that's neither here nor there. We'll find out. Again, I don't try to quantify unquantifiable things. I have no idea. Clearly, it's not ideal, but we'll deal with it. We got plenty more important things to talk about, including Riviera. Let's start there. This is a course we see every single year at this event. It's tough. It's fast greens. It's POA. If you don't know what you're doing, you could be into some trouble. There's no doubt about it. Of course, there's some very easy holes that you need to take advantage, particularly if your guy starts on 1. You better be -1 through 1 because that is a gimme par 5. Yeah, legitimately. But this is just a tough test of golf. So what do? Do you look major mentality where you want well-rounded players, or do you have a skill set you favor?
I think I favor a little bit more, just going through a lot of it, drivers of the golf ball. Pretty important here. And it's not that the rough is long. The rough is just dense. Kikuya, for those who aren't familiar, I live in Los Angeles. Kikuya grass will kill you, is what we like to say. It is a killer if you get in some of that stuff. Again, you pay me the big bucks for a reason. That's what I'm doing here. Come on.
We pay you the big bucks?
No, you don't. But anyway, We're continuing on.
If we did, it would be because of those things, though. So you're on the right track, my friend.
Theoretically, I'm building a brand here, theoretically. But Kikuya grass is very, very difficult around the greens a little bit too. I do want to see some form a little bit around the greens. There's some guys that, it's just, you're going to have some tough long iron shots into some of the par 3s. Some of the par threes are a little bit shorter here. Obviously on the front nine, you have number 16 that can play very short, but very difficult there. You're hitting into a little bowl. It's a great test of golf, but it's all around golfers, but you got to spike the putter. It would seem like that's kind of the difference between Bubba missing cuts and then him winning this kind of event 3 times in 8 years, but definitely going to be a well-rounded test of golf.
Yeah, it's just a challenge. Like I said, this is the field and the course mirror a major. This is a real test for the best players in the world. There's definitely something to it. I mean, there's certainly guys like Bubba and some others that they can handle this. But when you look at the winners, mostly it's just really good players, guys that can drive the ball. Certainly that helps. I think there's something to lefties. I'm not going to overweight that, but in addition, just good ball strikers. Then you've got like Cam Smith in there, who's a wizard around the green. I think when you have players of this caliber, you can do it in a lot of different ways. I'm going to use it's not an analogy, but the concept of you can do it one of 2 ways. You don't have to be a good around the green player, but if you're not, you better be able to strike it with your irons, because if you are scrambling a lot here and you don't know what you're doing, it's just not going to work. This is a very real test of golf. So I don't think you can just say, oh, this guy's a poor around the green player. Well, if he's an elite iron player, that's okay, but he better have one of the 2.
Correct. And that's what I'm getting at. It's definitely one of those where you need to be sharp in that category if the one thing is not going completely well. What it all comes down to, I think for the most part, though, a pretty this is just kind of what it is. You got to be in the fairway in a lot of these spots to be able to attack certain pins. You are not going to be able to go at certain pins if you are offline. Again, the rough is not long. It's just very penal, because if you can't stop the ball in these greens, it's running through. I think we've all seen the videos of how rock hard it can be from time to time. We're not going to get any moisture over the next 4 days. It's going to be brutal out there, and it plays quick. It plays firm and fast in the fairways. If you are not in the fairway, best of luck making a lot of birdies.
Exactly. And if you're not, you're going to have to be very, very creative, because you're not going to hit the green in regulation. You're going to have to get up and down, and you're just dealing with very difficult conditions there. That's why, again, like the Cam Smiths of the world, they can coexist in that type of atmosphere, but it's few and far between. And that's what we're just kind of dealing with. I don't think this is a gimmicky course by any stretch. I don't think we need to analyze it to death. You want guys who can really play, well-rounded guys. And I would be stunned if there is just like an off-the-wall winner. This is the type of event that the best players in the world are going to compete. You'll have a couple of, random guys up there, but this is the best players for a reason. Let's get into them if you're ready. What do you say?
Let's do it, my friend. Let's do it.
All right. Rahm, again, up top. We're going to go into rank them here. You know the drill. I'm going to give you 3 names. I want you to rank them for me. Overweight, underweight. What are you doing? Rahm versus JT versus Morikawa, who I will say doesn't look like he's played great here. And then you look at the numbers. He lost 8 strokes putting last year and gained 7.5 strokes on the approach. So clearly it could have been a lot better. Do you go with the Spaniard who's just unstoppable and he couldn't putt last week, or do you go elsewhere?
It's really tough because, again, variance is going to be a massive thing in terms of putting on this golf course. If you've got the feel for it, you can definitely roll some in. But I mean, you just have some drastic. All I do is look at Bubba, somebody like this. There's just some massive variance that can exist here. Even a guy like Jordan Spieth, he struggled here in the NCAAs. Obviously, they played that out here a long time ago. Much different golfer here now, but he's talked about how difficult these surfaces can be from time to time. So it's really hard for me to gauge how to really factor that in a lot. All I know is JT is lost in that department, and I don't find Riviera to be the best place to just be like, oh, look at me, I found it. This is not going to be that for me. So I think Jon Rahm, just because of what we've seen of him, obviously the putter hasn't been there of late, but he's the guy that I trust the most to do absolutely everything else. And I guess JT would have to fall in that boat, but the putter's just been so bad for him. I can't click on that. I'm going to have to go Rahm 1, probably a tie with Thomas and Morikawa, but I'm not really there on either of them this week.
Fair enough. So last week, digging into the numbers, there was a handful of world-class players who absolutely crushed tee to green and couldn't putt. JT and Rahm are both in there. The difference for me is JT, that's just another data point of him doing that. Rahm hasn't been doing that at all. It was just 1 week. He gained 11.2 strokes tee to green. He lost 2.25 on the greens. JT has been doing that. And I don't know, I'm not saying it can't stop, and it at some point it's going to flip. But I think that there's really no indication that it's just suddenly going to be at Genesis, where Rahm could absolutely turn around and do it once again in terms of positive putting. He's the safest play on the board. He's the favorite every week. And the price is more applicable to, there's a Cantlay's in there, but he's right with these guys. So Rahm would be one for me. I'm going to go Morikawa too.
Okay.
I don't mind him at all. Elite iron player. I mean, we haven't seen him a ton. He's been over, elsewhere playing, but every time we do see him, he looks good. And again, I am a little enamored with, he's only played this event twice and he gained 6.3 and 7.5 strokes on the approach. That's just ridiculous.
But that's what he does, right? Like you can't look at any given two round or two tournament sample size. I would expect Morikawa to be very positive with the irons.
I would too. I guess what I'm saying though, when you have those two numbers, if I told you had those, but the results for the 2 weeks are a 43rd and a 26th, I think a lot of people aren't noticing it. If he had two top 10s here already, I'd be singing kind of a different tune because I think all the value would be extracted. But I feel like a lot of people aren't realizing this long-term might be a great course for him. It just hasn't connected yet.
Okay. That's a fair way of looking at it. I mean, it's a golf course. Number 4 is a beast. Par 3, 236. So in terms of iron play, that one, you're basically bringing it in off a major slope on the right side of the green and kind of lassoing something in. That green is just ridiculous. That hole is just so hard. You get on 6 if they play it all the way back, which they won't do every single time. And they have a massive bunker in the middle of the green and can kind of put it in some different dimensions, but that can play upwards of 200 and be a really tight spot in terms of iron play. The par 3s here are just demanding. Like they're not the easiest. There's really no gimme situation. Even 16, 166, but it's a thimble that you're hitting into there. So it's not like I'm devaluing iron play. Like it's something that you have to be good at and have to be gaining at in just about any golf tournament. That's how you make more birdies, is hitting it close. But for me, Morikawa is fine, but like I just think that there's better options on the board.
No, and listen, this is something I talked about yesterday when we do shows for like the players or the masters or something. One of the most common things that happens is it'll be like, we'll get a question, do you like this world-class player? And sometimes the answer is no. And it's like, well, I would love to play them, but you just can't play the world's best because there's too many of them at these events. It's impossible. So a guy like Justin Thomas, for me, I like him a lot. I think he's, very live to contend just because he's live to contend every single week. It's just priorities. And for me, Morikawa right now, I'm willing to take that. I hope to get to some JT. Cantlay is the one, and we're going to get to him in a second, that I'm making a stand. I'm just not going to use him.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's get there. Because right now, if you're planning, it sounds like, to get to Cantlay, and we haven't projected around 16%, you're willing, it looks like, to short then, as you're kind of alluding to, JT and Morikawa to make those shares possible?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm playing.
The dog doesn't seem to like it.
No, my dog absolutely hates it right now. But
animals can sense danger, and that's dangerous. I'm telling you right now.
This is dangerous for sure. Yeah. But Patrick Cantlay, you look at him, what we've seen of recent form, it's outrageous. Coming back to the tail end of last year, I just think we're looking at a guy who's live to win every single week in like a really meaningful way. And the difference between him and JT, hi, what's going on, putter? How are you doing today? 5.4 strokes gained putting, 2 at Pebble, 0.2 at the Amex, 0.9 at Century. Out of the gate, just hot with a putter. And you get on these surfaces, and I just think he continues to keep it going. He's just not a guy who seems out of his element right now. Even losing that playoff, I mean, he had a good putt on 18, just didn't go in. And I just think every single week here, if you're going to give me a discount off of, again, I'm just going to avoid Thomas, Morikawa, and probably put all of my eggs into the Cantlay and Rahm basket. Like, I'm finding myself at 11K. I just feel much more confident going his direction right now than anywhere else on the board. I would say I feel more confident rostering him than Rahm right now, which again, might be a very short-term type focus thing, but there was a part of me that it went against everything where I was almost going to bet Cantlay. I'm not going to, but he's playing so good, and it's so evident if you're watching week in, week out. I will say the one other interesting thing, and maybe this is a tiny wrinkle that I like about him, he has a very different tee time draw Thursday to Friday from what everybody else in the range has. Rahm tees off at 7:24 round 1, 7:46 for Justin Thomas, 7:35 for Morikawa, as with Xander Schauffele there. 12.21, just kind of an interesting deal. Now, I don't know what the win could be or anything else, but there's a lot of nuances. This isn't that far away from the coast. You can get wind spiked up in a different way for an afternoon. Cantlay's just on a different side of the draw from those guys. So a small wrinkle to kind of throw in there. But if anything were to turn bad tomorrow or on Friday afternoon, it's far enough away. I think Cantlay might avoid some of that. So a small, tiny little piece that I looked at as well that I thought made it a little bit more intriguing to go his direction. But I am very heavy on Cantlay this week.
Well, we've got all the bases covered because you and me are on very opposite sides there. And again, this is what I'm talking about. I think we were both saying the same thing about the other player. Patrick Cantlay is playing out of his mind. He's making a case that he's the best golfer in the world. But right now, when you're only $300 cheaper than Rahm, I will go to Rahm. And then this is where we kind of get into this next batch. And I had Cantlay in there. What about Rory and what about Xander? Because you can go super balanced if you want, and you're still getting world-class players in the nines. Rory has that similar draw as Cantlay, as you alluded to. Xander's in the morning. But, Xander, I'm not going to say he gave the tournament away, but he was in the hunt once again. Great form. And we haven't seen Rory a ton, but he also played well when we have seen him.
Yeah, he played well at the Dubai. Yeah, I know he played well over there. Yeah, he yanked it a little bit, but he does that from time to time. You know what's nice, though? Top fives count in DFS. Like, that's very nice still. And again, you're talking about him relative to the other guys in the range. And I find it pretty unlikely that everybody 9K or better, that at least one of them doesn't finish better than Rory. If you were to just say Rory finishes fifth, but if you could tell me Rory finished fifth, I would have 100% of him this week. Like, I think that that's just something I would lock and load, let everybody else figure out the rest. Of course, I don't get that assurance, but it's just theoretically the way that I look at it. And Rory's my favorite player in the 9K range. I think it's nice to see even a little bit of form that exists here, but everything about his golf game, we talk about phenomenal driving of the golf ball. And now, it's been wayward last year. I know there were some weird weeks where like, what is going on with Rory and driving? It's never been an issue for him here. But that's what he does above anybody else in the world. Long-term, the CJ Cup, he ends up taking that down 4.7 strokes tee to green, but 5.4 of that was from off the tee. He does that ridiculous, he's the best driver of the golf ball over the last 5 years, him and Dustin Johnson in 1-2, whatever order you want to put them in over the last 5 years. And I don't think it's remotely close. So give me some Rory McIlroy. His golf game just fits perfectly. If the putter can flip, and that's kind of the story for everybody here, and it's tough to quantify in any kind of an extreme way, you just want to be there.
Definitely rank them for me. Rory 1, Xander 2, and then Cantlay 3. Rory, I think I'm not going to say it's pretty clear, but I would be kind of surprised if he never wins here. This is a great course for him. I see Wells Fargo. I see elements of Augusta, Quail
Travelers.
Hollow. Yeah, just some traveler, like courses that Rory dominates at times. You say what you want about Augusta, but certainly Quail Hollow is in there. And just even here, he's had some close calls already. He should dismantle this tee to green. You're getting him at a discount. He can be your second man in or a very balanced first man in. I like that. Chad just pointed out, and they're dead on. Xander's ball striking numbers were ridiculous last week. No pushback if you want to go to him as well. I'm just going to slightly prefer Rory. I will definitely try to double dip in this range. I want to ask you one quick thing about the range, though, before we move down. Of all the guys last week, pretty much everyone, for the most part, kind of got it done. Hovland was a no-show, though. Yeah. He was just very poor. He didn't have it. Will you go back because of the zigzag when everyone else maybe is soured, or do you still see 16% ownership projection and you say, I'm not really getting a discount off the miscut?
Yeah, I'm curious to see because I think it's going to depend on the field. Like I doubt that if you're playing like $100 or $200 single entry, that people want to really commit to clicking on Hovland's name. I'd be more inclined in a small field to take that shot with him as kind of a point of differentiation in the range. But in terms of like a large field portfolio, I don't know how you can look at anything that happened last week and say, I feel good about Viktor Hovland this week. And you don't want to be too quick. Obviously, there's a bunch of water out there. There's no water at Riviera. And some people, that just changes mentally for them in some kind of a capacity. I mean, it's one of the things that sticks out when you walk the golf course. There's hazards. You have like a Barenka on 8, 9. You have like some spots where stuff can 7 and 8. Specifically, you have some spots where those par fours where it can really pop up. But for the most part, there's just no water that's glaring at you. It's a different kind of a test. Obviously, I think the firm, fast mentality of what Scottsdale was playing like is going to help people just go from last week to this week a little bit more efficiently. But nothing that we saw from Viktor Hovland would you say is positive. Can he flip the switch? Yeah, he's proven to be very, very solid. But I will say, as much as he's shown the ability to go out and, win an event at the Mayakoba, or, had a really, really nice fall last year, coming off of second in the Farmers, fifth here at this event last year, second at the WGC Mexico. He goes through these pockets of really hot form. I'm more inclined at 16% to hit eject and let everybody else do the clicking.
Normally when I play guys like this, I'm looking for, the big discount in ownership. And I say that Viktor Hovland is not like 1/4 as likely to beat the neighboring pivots. But in this case, you're choosing best available. You're not getting that. So that's my biggest problem with him. I can play Rory or I can play Hovland. I can play Hovland or I can play, Cam Smith. We're going to get to him in a second. But Scotty Scheffler for about the same ownership. I would rather just keep it, and you're not leveraging with Hovland. So I'm not really there in that capacity. Let's move down, though. Our third set of Rankum. So Cam Smith is projecting as the highest owned player right now. What does that mean to you? Where do you rank him in terms of him versus Will Z? I have Fitzy in there. We've already a little talked about him, but just talk to me about Cam Smith and Will Z.
Cam Smith and Will Z. Will Z, it's interesting. I don't think that I'm ever going to be, he came out of the gate hot here and I haven't been there. So I've missed both weeks that he's played well in the early going of the season. It's not hard to buy back in when he's sub 15% if I really wanted to, but I'm not really landing there. Cam Smith is kind of a guy that I feel pretty comfortable with, but it seems like the field does too. We've seen a really hot, obviously played phenomenal at the Century, missed the cut at the Sony Open, but there was no glaring issue there, 67-71. It's been a while since we've seen him, but it seems like the field is really high on him. The one guy we have over 20% in the entire golf tournament currently. So at the highest owned player in the event, I think I can probably shy away from him at 9,100, but between the two of them, I definitely prefer him over Will Z. And, maybe Will Z goes out and just continues to torch the world here, 8,800. He's got that ability. He had it at Wake Forest. He's had it so far in the early going when, you see him spike at the Masters and such, but I'm looking for a little bit more consistency. I think they're both a little bit too high variance. I think what their outcomes could be here. Cam Smith's played decent enough here in the past, but I'm just not going to get there on either in a meaningful way.
Will Z, I have no problem with that. Back off the COVID. Ball striking numbers are good. Putter has been weak for a while, but he's just a quality player. Cam Smith, I don't really understand it. I'm going to have some exposure. There's no doubt, but there's just no possible way that I want to get into a situation where, with ownership, you look at it, one of the many tools we have on the site. We also have to think about how is it going to rotate into different type of tournaments. And at this, when I see someone who's north of 20%, possibly in the large field GPPs, that means to me in single entry and 3-max, Cam Smith could push like 30%. And that's a red flag for me. It doesn't mean I'm not going to use them anywhere, but I would rather take the pivots because I think at a course like this, even though it's an easy cut to make relative because it's an invitational, I'll take some savings. I'd bump down even to your boy Sam Burns, which I rarely say. I still don't like Sam Burns in that spot, but I'd rather play him, I think. And this is where the value kind of comes in some of these mid-range. Talk to me quickly. We're going to dip into the 7s. But before we do, is there anyone else in the 8s that you want to mention? The Bubbas, the Finaus, the Homas, the Scotts of the world.
Oh my God, am I investing in Bubba Watson this week? 10.5%. This guy at this golf course. Yeah, he's coming off 2 missed cuts the last 2 years. One, there were no fans in the stands. The other one, just an interesting putting display by him. He was absolutely abysmal. The guy's won here 3 times. Now, here's the thing. You don't need him to go out and win. You just need like a high variance outcome where he just goes and competes and has a high finish here in the 8K range. There's a lot of names here. I think Max Homa is a guy that you and I are both probably going to click on, I would assume. Southern California finished here, won the event last year. Somebody to be clicking on. Matthew Fitzpatrick. We'll see what everybody says here, but he's the first guy off tomorrow. Saw that note in chat. That's another nice thing. 6:40 a.m. Set your alarms to make sure that he is teeing off. That will be something to pay attention to. So don't even have to worry about sources or anything else. I have that moved my conscience. But Bubba Watson, just too good of a player at this golf course. And he's a horses for courses, guys. We talked about it. The Travelers, we have Augusta National. We just have so many of these spots where he just plays well at his spots. I liked the form last week. He could have putted decently and really pushed that top 10 ticket for me because that was a stand that I was willing to take. Finished second, obviously, to Harold Varner in that ridiculous fashion. The end of that golf tournament was incredible, but I'm going to go right back to the well with him this week.
Yeah, no problem with Bubba. No problem with Max Homa, who, again, he's got a lot of things that make sense, including the fact that he's already been there and done that. Good ball striker, clearly likes this. Also a winner at Wells Fargo. I'm going to push the Quail Hollow narrative a little bit, and he's certainly one that makes it easy to justify. If you want the leverage, it's Tony Finau. He was awful on Thursday. He was good on Friday. He just couldn't really make enough putts to get inside the weekend. If you want to buy low, at least unlike Hovland, Tony Finau is projecting at much lower ownership than the majority of the range. So I don't mind it from that standpoint.
I like that a lot. 8,400 for him here. And we think about what does he do traditionally. He drives the ball well. He doesn't always putt fantastic, but again, high variance outcome here on some of these greens. There's going to be bad putters who have good weeks, good putters who have terrible weeks. It's going to flip flop. I don't know which order I said those in, but you know what I mean. Definitely something to embrace there with Tony Finau. If he were 15%, I would be shying away like I normally do with him, but it's really hard not to play the ownership game with a guy who can be that strong with the driver from time to time.
All right, let's keep moving down. Let's start getting to some value mid-range. Sergio Garcia, Paul Casey, Taylor Gooch, who's going to be popular. These are kind of these upper sevens, flat 8 type players. You can pair 2 or 3 of them up if you go very balanced. Rank them for me.
Joaquin Niemann 1, Joaquin Niemann 2, Joaquin Niemann 3.
He's not even on the list, but you know what? We make an exception.
He said upper 7, so I just kind of did it.
I bet Niemann at 60-1.
Good. We both played him at Farmers. He was like one of the bright spots of my week.
Yeah, we haven't seen him a ton, but every time we have, regardless of where it is in the world, he's been good so far in 2022. I expect big things from Niemann this year, so I am buying as well.
God, I just got tilted thinking about Jason Day making that putt on 18 again. All the top 5s disappearing into the abyss. But Joaquin Niemann, we're going back to the well. The guy's just too strong of a player up there. You threw Abraham Answer in there. I'm not going to be going that direction, but Paul Casey, I sure am. 7,600 on this upper echelon. I guess you started with Gooch, went Leishman, but Gooch, that's what threw me off is you threw an 8K guy in there. And I think everybody's likes Gooch this week. He's a well-rounded golfer and he's been showing it of late. And if you want to take that shot and make him a stand, I mean, he's a great second guy in, third guy into your lineups, but I prefer Matthew Fitzpatrick. I prefer the guys that we talked about a little bit more expensive. And then I really prefer going to Joaquin Niemann, former number 1 amateur out of Chile. We've seen some really good form from him on and off here over the course of the last 2 years. And there's nothing that we saw from the Farmers. You just want to embrace it. That was his one tournament, his debut, and we were just in on it early. We were able to almost really capitalize if he had gotten that top 5, but I want to be there in DFS, sub 8K. Could just be a wrong price for a guy with this much talent.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So Niemann, three appearances here, a 43rd, a missed cut, and a 44th, but he lost strokes putting in all 3. You also have to keep in mind that he's still only 23. So like some of these big, he's very young still. Everyone, rightfully so, is talking about Thigala from last week. Like Niemann is just so young. So a lot of this data I throw out, his game is evolving. I expect really big things. Again, 60-1 out there in the outright was good enough for me. Rest of this range, a couple other guys I want to throw out. So Thomas Pieters, I'm a fan. I think most people are a fan. But this ownership, I think we all have to acknowledge, is ridiculous.
Yep.
He's projected as the second most popular player. And although I really like Thomas Pieters, I'm a fan. The blow up risk on Thomas Pieters is enormous. I don't understand. I know the form has been absolutely fantastic and the talent has always been through the roof. He's got experience here from when he played in college at Illinois. He's got a lot of things that he checks, but are you willing to embrace that type of ownership?
No. I like Thomas Pieters a lot. If this were the 2012 Ryder Cup, you want to be rostering this dude. 2012. Okay. Yeah, he dominated in Chicago. Dominated. That was him breaking onto the scene. The Belgian bomber, the great Bambino. It's
I do love my Belgian golfers. Nicholas Colsaert, shout out.
Colsaert
didn't think you'd get into the show today.
He made it anyway.
He wasn't on the run sheet for obvious reasons.
Can we talk Eden Hazard? That would be more fun for me. If we
I don't even know. I was going to say,
come on now.
Who that is.
Van Buren? Come on, I'm a soccer guy.
Believe me, I'm a big Lukaku guy. I'm a big Belgian backer.
Was so sick.
The Belgian goalie was making saves like there was no tomorrow in Champions League yesterday. Anyway, none of that is relevant to Thomas Pieters here. I'm using him, but I have trouble with the ownership here in terms of how much I want to allocate. I want exposure because he's very talented, but I also think that is a very over-owned player, in my opinion.
Yep, I'm with you. There's nothing really to add to it. He's too popular. I get why people landed on him, but it's almost as if somebody wrote him up or said, this is what his projection is going to be at some place, not Awesemo.com, but said that it was going to be the popular play here in the range. What he does drive the golf ball well, no doubt about it. But you don't really want to be in the same room as him when he's putting from time to time. So I'm okay hitting eject on this kind of ownership. It's just very surprising to me.
In the same price range as Patrick Reed. What are you doing, Patrick Reed, who from a stats, if you look at his recent form, he would be towards the bottom of any metric. His driving is non-competitive. Are you willing to say, well, it's Patrick Reed and he can fix it on the fly? Or are you just saying he has to prove it first?
Hard pass. He's never played well here before. He's only showed up 3 times. So the guy has been able to make his schedule for the last 9 years. Obviously, he's not in good form and he's trying to right that right now. Played here in 2020, 2017, 2013. 51st, 59th missed cut. So I think we can all just sit and wait on him. If he burns me, he burns me, but I'm just going to have 0%.
Got a good question from chat from Matty Mitch. Who do you like better in a vacuum? Pieters or Maverick? Does ownership change your pick?
Pieters or Maverick? I mean, yep. Do you know who I am? First of all, I don't think Maverick is playing. Didn't he get hurt?
What?
Wasn't Maverick McNeely? He withdrew, I know, last week. I didn't think he was in the field this week.
No, he's in the field. He's in my lineup, so he better be playing.
Okay, let me double check. I had him. Okay, I have him in the projections here with 0 next to his name as well. So it's not just me. We have a 0 next to his name on Awesemo.com. Just want to throw it out there.
No, it's good to know. You always want to double check these things. As far as I know, Maverick McNeely is in the tournament. Did not play last week.
We all know my love for the man. If he's teeing it up, I'm playing him. But for whatever reason, we have a 0 next to his name. We should probably change that. No doubt about it. So let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about it. So I think it's just an issue here on our projection side. We need to get a projection for Maverick McNeely so that I can roster him at 7,200.
Yeah, I would say this, and I know it's kind of hedging it. If my lineup was unique with my 5 players and I had $7,400 left, I would take Pieters. But if my lineup was not leveraged already and I was looking, I'm very comfortable with Maverick. He's a cut maker. He's a talented guy. California, pending we don't know, and I haven't heard anything of like there's a problem with him in terms of why he wasn't at Waste Management. I would be good, but if my lineup was not already stacked to the brim with ownership, I still think Pieters in a vacuum is the better play.
Agreed with everything you said there, but no, I'm actually not going to agree with anything you said. I love Maverick McNeely way more. Fine. I think he's the better long-term player.
You didn't even have him in the tournament. You had him out begging for
Awesemo.com had him out at the tournament as well. So excuse me. I remember seeing that and was like, oh, okay, well, that'll get updated. And it obviously did not. And let me refresh here because if somebody's watching on our end, please update his projection because it is a big fat 0 next to it, not just me.
Any love for Kevin Na? I'm not there personally.
Here's the thing. Kevin Na wins random golf tournaments. Like he just wins out of the middle of nowhere. So if you want to say in 150, do I want him in my lineups? I do because his around the green game and putting can just be outrageous, but he's also been driving the ball relatively well from time to time. You see the clips of him just bending down, picking up the tee before he can, he starts running after it after taking 20 minutes to hit it, but should be fun in this spot to try to take some shots at least. I mean, the off the tee game is never going to be strong compared to the top tier players in the world, but strokes gained around the green, #1 on tour the last, 2 years. It's ridiculous how good he can be from time to time. So if it's playing this firm, this challenging, this tough, maybe he can get it done. And I'll take some shots on it in large field stuff.
Kevin, last 11 appearances at Genesis, has gained strokes off the tee 0 times. 0 for 11. During that span, he's got a second, a third, and a fourth at this event. So he can do it, just like Cam Smith can do it, but I still would not back him personally. He's got a lot of other bad finishes in there. You are literally drawing to probably a cumulative 10 strokes gained around the green and putting combined, and Kevin Na absolutely can do that. That's what he does. Not really for me this week, though, only because his range, give me Noren right there. Give me Casey. Sergio is there. Peters is right below. We didn't even talk about Corey Connors yet. I want to ask you about him. I like Corey Connors this week.
You were both there.
Okay.
We were there. That was I can't remember who it was up against. He ended up fishing 38. Nothing was that special about last week, but we know the ball striking acumen this guy has. He's an absolute freak of nature in that department. And, the last spring, if we had gotten him right, we would have won a lot more money, you and I. So it's definitely something where this time of the year, I'm definitely kind of gearing up some Corey Connors in my life. It's never going to be fun around the greens to watch. It can be problematic from time to time, but gained 2.7 strokes putting, actually lost 2.2 with the approach at Phoenix last week. Had to do it a little bit differently, but he's gained strokes off the tee every single round every single tournament since the US Open. Actually, beyond that, off the tee, he has not lost strokes in an event since this tournament a year ago. So give me all of the Corey Connors.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and I get that this is a major level field, but this is a major level price. Like, you're asking Corey Connors to make a cut, basically at 73. And to me, this guy, he has done it at Augusta. He's a world-class player and certainly a world-class ball striker. His around the green game is not good. And if he's not crisp with the irons, he wasn't last week, it's going to be a big problem. But I'm kind of backing that he can fix it. Last guy in this range before we move to the real cheapies. What about Bez, who he's going to do it differently? He's not strong off the tee, but he is amongst the best putters in the world.
You got to take some shots with him. It's really hard for me to look at Pebble Beach as any kind of a comp, but seeing some decent enough for him, that field was just garbage outside of the top tier. Cantlay, obviously, and Tom Hoagie coming from the rafters to body slam us all. That would have made 4 in a row, and that would have been fun. But BZ, I know it's a guy that our friend and co-host over here as well really enjoys. So I'm going to be firing up a little bit here if in Jeff's honor for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are different types of stacks you can do. And I mean, we just talked about Kevin Na, about how he's had some success at this tournament and he's done it differently. That's probably a similar route that a guy like Bez is going to need to do. There's no doubt that he's just a little different. All right, we got a couple more groups, then we're going to get to our betting card. But I do want to say, for some people out there, if you like NASCAR, Daytona, which is, I guess, their Masters. I don't know anything about NASCAR. It's right around the corner. And of course, like we do with every sport, we have content and packages for you. Awesemo Plus NASCAR package for less than $2 per cup race this season. $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. What you're going to do, you're going to use the promo code Green Flag. It's on the screen because our man Tyler knows what's going on. Or just visit awesemo.com/promos. You're saving a ton of money on this package. So if you are someone that enjoys NASCAR or just wants to gain an edge with the tools, this is the promo code for you. Now, we've talked about a lot of expensive players, world-class players. If we want to get multiple of them in the lineup, we might have to get a little egregious. And I know this is what the people like. Talk to me about the sixes. We've got Aaron Wise, Ricky Fowler, Cameron Champ. I don't know. Other people are down there. Munoz is down there. Cameron Young apparently is very, very good. How low will you go, and what names caught your eye?
So before we get to the sixes, I wanted to throw in Francesco Molinari, member of Riviera Golf Course, by the way. Good. Not something people not necessarily associate with Francesco Molinari, but he's a California transplant from Italy, obviously, but lives in the area and a member at Riv. That's always fun for me, for a guy who showed a little bit of form at the Amex. It hasn't been great of late, tougher field, but I'm going to take some shots there considering he's like 2% owned. So before we start dumpster diving, wanted to add him into the fray here.
That's a good one.
Aaron Wise, I like Aaron Wise driving the golf ball. Like I know I don't like Aaron Wise. I'm forced by the powers that be, and from you and knowing us having conversations. There's a lot of things we disagree on this week, it seems like, but I think we're both going to be rostering a 6,700 Aaron Wise, right? Just we hate ourselves.
I mean, I'm not a fan of myself personally, but I don't know if that's going to equate to rostering what. So the thing about the sixes is when you look, you're basically choosing quote unquote best available. That, you know, there's not a lot of, I don't see anyone projected for more than 5% ownership in the entire range. So you're not worried about like, oh, I don't want to take the super chalky guy, I'm going to pivot. You were just looking for who you think is the best play in the given range. So to get to Wise, and ironically, he's one of the more popular guys in that range. I may have a share or two, but when you look at like my, you know, I do my ownership based on dollars, not necessarily teams, because I play a lot of different buy-in contests. I don't see Wise garnering a serious amount of that. He's just done nothing. I believe the talent is there, but he had no business even being near the cut line, and he wasn't. He lost 6.7 strokes tee to green at Phoenix. Now there is water and it ups the variance, but man, I'm surprised, I'll be honest, that you're not advocating maybe to go to Cameron Young at the same price.
Anybody who plays golf, and I don't care, you can play at the professional level, you can play at any level. I think there's a different gear when there's just not trouble, like no penalty shots, when there's not water just staring you in the face. And we talk about it a lot on the Florida swing, where you go to TPC Sawgrass and it just ups the variance for it. TPC Scottsdale has a lot of those real obstacles for guys where, you know, if you're not completely on with the driver and you start getting squirrely left, scoring holes like number 15 out there, number 17, become a little bit more difficult than it is for 99% of the field that, you know, is just feeling good in that department. And so you get up the variance on that. There's no water at Riv. There's going to be a clean slate for him. Even some of the golf tournaments that he's really competed at well and then fallen apart. The Honda sticks out in my mind, you know, watching that Sunday from him last year. I think there's a definite plus to playing a golf tournament where you just don't have that real trouble, where you can kind of get away with a shot here or there if you can get on a certain angle. Now, he needs to improve everything this week. But yes, if you had told me he was $6,700 blindly coming into this tournament and you didn't see any form from him in the spring, or from the, yeah, I mean, it's the spring. Yeah. The winter, technically. Would you be rostering him coming off of the fall?
I mean, yeah, we've seen a complete regression of the ball striking. Now it could be a blip, or it could just be broken again. So I get it. Listen, I'm not going to push back hard on Wise, particularly because of the range. This is a super just make a cut in a field where over 50% are going to find the weekend. He's a good scorer. He's got the talent. I don't think anyone doubts that. Now, Ricky, on the other hand, I don't care where they're playing. Like the last time I remember Ricky, I don't even think it was here, but it's like, oh, there's no water. Then he lost the ball in the tree and there's just like an orange golf ball good? Up there. Do you have any interest in Ricky?
No.
Okay.
I can only go so far. I mean, it's got to be, is the CJ Cup the biggest outlier that we've seen from a golfer in the last year?
I mean, I think Martin Traynor won.
That's point, right. That's true.
I see where you're going. Yeah, Ricky, Chris ball striking there, and then back to Oblivion. There are some names though. Let's go through a couple of these guys.
Let's get real on it.
Like you want Mito, Martin Laird.
I can get behind some Mito. I can get behind. So do you remember when Taylor Moore was like the crazy chalk of all crazy chalk at the Farmers for no reason? At like whatever his tag was, and we were both like, this can't be real. And then it actually wasn't. But I think he's a decent enough play here at 6,700. We've seen, you know, the RSM 8th, 16th at Pebble. Neither of those are really course comps for him. But, you know, if you're trying to make a case for somebody, I think we could do a lot worse than him in this range. Somebody that we don't have enough stats to just say, this is what you are yet. But it seems like somebody that from time to time had win equity on the Korn Ferry Tour, and bringing his game over to this side. Again, it's a little bit of a wait and see. You don't really know, but I think he's an all right roster.
Yeah, I mean, in this range, you're only gonna get one of three things: complete unknowns, guys that are playing horrible, or guys that just don't have, you know, a ton of experience and their stats are all over the place. Doc Redman, Wyndham Clark, Matt Wallace was thrown out by chat. His stats last week were as bad as I've seen, but pedigree wise, Matt Wallace is one of the best in this range. So It's just kind of what are you valuing? Of course, we're looking for guys to make the cut, but you can do that in a lot of different ways. For me, Wyndham Clark, I think is pretty interesting. Good driver, good putter. Don't know if he can survive without being better with his irons, but at least he has an out. He's an elite driver of the ball, and that is something.
That is something. And that's what we're getting at. If you can find somebody in a skill set and that, you and I would both agree is a skill set that it helps to be good at on this golf course. Of course, driving it well anywhere is useful, but specifically here, you got to at least be competent in that regard. Even Kevin Na, I mean, you have to talk about his elite, and I mean, best in the world, elite type short game that can bail him out of certain spots. You don't have that anybody else down here in this range or anything. So I'm looking at a guy like that where they can definitely carry the load for you. Wyndham Clark's just fine too.
I don't think I'm going to try to avoid going under 65, not because I don't think you can do it, just because I don't think I need to, unless I go like Rahm, Rory and like one other guy up top in the same lineup. I don't think I'm going to need to punt with like, CT Pan or Lipsky or someone like that, unless I'm really in a jam.
Not even one share of Griot this week.
I mean, maybe I'll just do Wise, Griot, and Ricky in the same lineup.
Get with them Rahm and Cantlay or something ridiculous.
I don't think I need to do much of that. If I had to, I think Doc Redman is showing signs. Don't think he's there, fair. But maybe. Let me ask you, because we opened the show with this. You're on Matrix mode. So tell us, in the betting card, you got outrights out there. What are you doing with the betting market?
Oh my God. Week? It's a beautiful thing. Again, this is unsustainable. But again, we talk about these every single week, and it's just we've been on the right side of it. I think we both talked about Scheffler just kind of making sense. You're trying to find that one guy that's, maybe in DFS that there's just high variance, and Bubba Watson is the definition of it here. I started my card 35-1 there. Again, I entertained betting Cantlay at 10-1 just because I do think he's that live every single week. Almost did the top 5 as well, but just short odds, guys. You're just never getting the true value, I don't think, unless you just see something where, he's just playing so much better than Rahm and Thomas and everybody else. And am I backing him a lot in DFS? Yes, but part of that is because of DFS, the way that you have to play that. So I'm in on Bubba Watson 35-1, identical number. Fitzpatrick 35-1. Do I get my ticket refunded if he withdraws? I believe I do. So that's going to be helpful. I'm blindly putting a sprinkle on Sam Burns 40-1 because I'm a sicko and I don't like myself, but 60-1 Paul Casey, I feel pretty good about. Long iron play is another nice characteristic to give a little bit of a bump up here. And nobody in the world has been better over the course of the last 10 years in that department. You get some par fives where, obviously you're going to hit a long iron in. If you hit it short of the Barenka on 1, you're going to have a long iron in on 4. You're going to have 7, 8. You have a gauntlet of par 4s on the back 9 where you just have to be really precise and crisp in that department. And Paul Casey can be that guy. 60-1 is a number that I really like for him that I'm sprinkling into the mix. So kind of peppering that mid-range quite a bit. And then Corey Connors, last guy in, 100-1. I think that I'm taking that shot as well.
I don't mind that. He's not on my card, but I did back him in the top 10 market because I think it is a little more reasonable. The payoff's just not nearly as good, but you can find 7-1 on a Connors top 10. And I think that's more than good enough to put on. Neiman for me was my favorite bet just because of the number. Like I said, do I think he's going to win? No, but he's 60-1 and that's value. I wanted to possibly explore going into Peters in the betting market as a pseudo hedge. You can find 12-1 on a top 5, and that's really where he'd do serious damage if you went away from him in the DFS market. Ultimately, I didn't get there. Just going to play him in DFS and not do much else. And I'm going to throw one more out. And Chad just brought him up. I think Keegan is a fine play this week. He can't putt and he can't chip, so he needs to be extremely pure with the ball striking. But he is 10-1 for a top 10. And this is a guy, Keegan knows what he's doing. Say what you want about him. He can go full Keegan at any moment. He really rallied after a bad Saturday. He was great on Sunday at Waste Management. I'm going to try to ride that form. I think Keegan could be sneaky good this week.
I mean, his ball striking at the Genesis is outrageous. I remember 2012 watching him and Phil Mickelson back and forth when I first moved out to LA. That was kind of the first inception of this golf tournament. Been to it a number of times. Won't be going this year, but it has not been pretty here of late, but I have some nostalgia there. I think you can definitely back some Keegan Bradley. He's shown it a second and a fourth here in the past. Anytime the putter flips, you're in good shape here. It's been really out of shape here on these greens the last 4 years, but definitely something I'm willing to take a shot on anytime with him.
Okay, let's go to lineup builds and we'll do hot takes. We did have a super chat and we appreciate that. A quick thing. How are your NBA lineups doing?
Oh, look at that. And sorry, Carlos Manzo. I know you're the man. And again, today we had a ton of news here. I got to a lot of Al Horford on DK, so I'm probably in better shape there. FanDuel probably pretty dead, but my night hasn't even started. Şengün and Dennis Schroeder, two of my bigger stands, period. We didn't get a chance to talk about that news because Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood got ruled out as we ended the show, as John Morant got ruled in, so no Tyus Jones. That's lots of crazy stuff in the NBA streets. So it was a wild day. 11 gamer. I try to focus on golf throughout this, but getting my last couple swaps in here as we're going.
Well, you'll have the opportunity to focus on golf right now as we build this bad boy. You're going first. Who do you want to start this lineup with?
I mean, I don't want to start with the Cantlay build because I feel like that's not what you want to be doing. So let's go to John Rahm. Let's just plug in the best player in the world, 11-3.
I have no problem with that. We still have plenty of salary to work with. We could really do anything. And for this lineup, I'm going to be a little aggressive. I'm going to put in Rory with him. I think we can make it work. We still have over $7,200 per four. We're going to have to find some cheapies, but let's go aggressive. Let's do Rahm, Rory start.
Rahm, Rory start, man. Good times. 72.50 left over here. I don't want to click on Peters. That isn't what we're going to do. Let's go to the Corey Connors route again. Ball striking, immaculate. We talk about his ability to perform on big stages at big venues. This is a big venue where big boys come to play golf. So Corey Connors, 7,300.
I'm going to go right below him. Kind of that double tap style. Keegan is $100 less. Another ball striker. Again, it's frustrating rostering him because he sometimes just simply can't make a cut because he can't get out of his way on the greens. You have to live with that because when he does, there is major upside and he is as good tee to green as you're going to find in this range. So Corey Connors and Keegan, two more to go.
Two more. See, this is where I'm really, it's like, do I want to really go and back my Taylor Moore here, 6,700? I don't want some poor soul to see this lineup and be like, that's going to be the make or break guy. So you know what? I'm going to do this. I don't know what it's going to look like here. He got cut last week, shot 75. I think coming off of travel, a lot of other things. Maybe he doesn't travel in the same style. But one guy I wanted to throw into the mix is Harold Varner III, 7,100. We didn't talk about him in that low 7K range, but not really garnering a ton of attention, around 4%. Sometimes when a player like this gets a win, doesn't matter that it's over in Saudi Arabia, or you have a big event like that, they'll have an off week, but the form has obviously been there. Him getting the monkey off the back, being able to just go out and win a golf tournament at the professional level here of the nature of which he did. Yeah, it was the Asian Tour, but it was a phenomenal field by those standards. So Harold Varner, that's a pretty cheap number on him. I'm willing to take that shot.
So if we go Varner, I think this sets up nice in this case. If you have Keegan and Varner together, you have leverage. I do not think that's going to be popular. I'm okay now putting Peters in, which would get us to 0. If you're going and you're saying, you know what, I don't want to use Peters, well, that's fine. You've got a million guys. You've got McNeely, you've got Bez. I'm totally on board with EVR. Bobby Mack is there. Like you can leave $300-400 and not even worry about it. But if you wanted to play Peters, I would be totally comfortable with this given the lineup construction that we just did.
Or if you want to take out Peters and put in Thigala, because hey,
I'm not doing that, but you can do that.
I'm just saying, nobody's talked about this guy. I feel like I've been the first on the scene with him, but it helps to just be absolutely murdered by this guy for years. But there was nobody on any show, period. And don't come at me. There was nobody saying his name before me. Fact.
No, I was saying it. I was saying, who the hell is Thigala? I've never heard of this person in my life, and I will not.
The guy you needed to win last week is
good for him. Very impressive. I was rooting for him, even though my wallet certainly was not. It is hot take time. And chat, you guys all year have been absolutely outstanding. Make the show fun each and every week. If you want to show some support to us, simplest way and the easiest way to do it is just hit the like button. Really helps us out, shows the support. And if you want to join, just press subscribe, totally free. You join the Awesemo DFS community. We are marching towards 75,000 subs. All right, it's your moment. Hot take time. What do you got?
My hot take, I feel like hot takes have been pretty good here of late too. Wasn't Thigala my hot take last week?
I don't remember what it was, but
99% sure. Chat remind me, but I'm pretty sure Thigala top 10 was my hot take last week. And man, was that fun. Had the
Really?
150 to 1 sweat as well thrown into the mix. Let's get weird. And it's what?
I think it was my hot take was something very, very bad, like Crime Against Humanity bad, but I don't remember. Go ahead.
All right. Here you go. So I've also done pretty well with these, obviously the Cameron Tringale, I didn't know he was hurt, but in terms of missing the cut, I always enjoy those ones. Xander Schauffele is going to miss the cut this week, coming off of a tournament at the Waste Management, obviously came close there, kind of faded towards the end. Xander Schauffele, this is an elite field again. And again, he's an elite player, but something about it just kind of feels a little iffy to me. It seems, I don't know. Riviera doesn't scream Xander to me. So I'm going to just kind of be hitting the fade button pretty hard in that department. I know it upsets you greatly, and I know everybody loves to roster this guy, but Xander Schauffele misses the cut at Riv.
Oh, yeah. You weren't on Live Before Lock last week.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. But I said Thigala, he was one of my bets that I logged off the
I was
show
to
with.
say, now the jury, that's Tyler on top of things. I can't remember anything. That's why I don't remember this. Okay. Are we ready, chat? Again, EVR. Hold on. Hot take EVR for the win. That is mega overload hot. Even though I do think EVR could play, and it's honestly probably more likely than what I'm about to say. I have mentioned this guy several times this year for reasons unknown. He's played like garbage every time. There is just a bad number out there though on Matt Kuchar, who has done absolutely nothing. He's 19 to 1 for a top 10. I'm looking at the face. I'm looking at the market right now. 12 to 1, 12 to 1, 12 to 1, 14 to 1, 19 to 1. I'm going to have to put that on my card. Matt Kuchar's putter is secure. He has gained strokes putting in 4 straight. His ball striking is not secure. He has missed the cut in 2 straight. He can certainly handle Genesis. We've seen him do it time and time again. He was second here in 2020. I'm not going to call for a Matt Kuchar top 10, but I am going to use my hot take to say that Matt Kuchar at 19 to 1 for a top 10 is good enough for me. Sneaky 0.1% type play. Matt Kuchar will be on some of my teams as a YOLO play.
I mean, that is an absolute YOLO play. Everybody's a good bet at a certain number. And we've seen 2 top 10s here. 2020, obviously, was the second that he ended up pulling out of the Rabbit's hat with 9.5 strokes gained putting here. Good luck having that
that is also a fair point. We'll see. You know what? You got to have a couple of those guys in the pool. But there you go. Genesis Open. If you have any questions, at Eric Lindquist, you can harass him about the Fitzy news if we ever get it, at Raz DFS. Again, each and every week we'll be providing Live Before Lock. We head to Florida next week. So for me, for Eric, for Tyler, for everyone here at Awesemo, good luck this week. Enjoy the Genesis. And we will be back with you next week talking Honda Classic, I believe. We'll see you guys then.
Welcome to Florida, baby.